Hey guys, it's Amber from NotableInk.com and I am back with Altenew for their standalone die and stencil release. So we're jumping right in because I have 6 cards to share, and I started off with some clean clear water on watercolor paper. I'll have all the supplies linked down below. And here I have shades of purple and crystal watercolors, and these are from the new Artist 24 pan set from Altenew, and I'm just dropping in the color, and then I'm going to set this aside to dry while I move on to the next card. So I have taken the new Fine Frames Diamonds die set, and I've cut 2 different sizes out of black cardstock and sunflower cardstock. So you're going to get a positive and a negative, so to speak, piece here. So the fine frames are what the die is for, but you also get that centerpiece, and I use that from the sunflower. I also have a hello from the Bold Greetings die set, and I'm just going to stack that a few times with black cardstock. I've adhered everything down. This is the only thing I stamp out of all of these cards is the sub-sentiment there, and that's from Hello and Hugs. I added some black splatter with the jet black ink spray, and these cards are done. We're going to move back to that watercolor panel that we made. I die cut it down to an A2 size, backed it with some sticky back fun foam, and here I'm adding a white fine frame, and that's from the Fine Frame Square dies. And I've also added the Fancy For You die cut. I've stacked that up with a couple, maybe like 4 pieces of black cardstock, and added some black splatter. Moving on to the third card, I did some loose watercolor on another watercolor panel so that I could die cut it out with the Open Blooms 3D die set. This is another new 3D die set, and it layers beautifully and easily. There's always one edge of the die cut that matches exactly with a part of the die cut before it. So it's really easy to line this up. You always have a frame of reference somewhere. And then you have this front piece that is actually a petal that folds out towards you, which is also really cool. So I really love this. So I tried to use different shades of the blue and purple to add more dimension to this die cut. And I'm just adhering it with some glue. You could also use glue tape, or you could also use some foam squares for extra dimension. For the leaves, I just used some black cardstock for the base layer, and then that same watercolor. I have another Fine Frame Square die here, and you can use your tweezers like this to get it lined up, or you could slide a piece of cardstock along the edge of it to make sure it's nice and straight. I added some more splatter with the jet black ink spray, and I just take the nozzle out and tap it along. Make sure you clean your surface though, because that will smear all over your project if you don't get your surface cleaned up. And then I'm just going to arrange this, and I'm using another sentiment from the Bold Greetings die set. Here's the finished card. I love all that white space and the high contrast with the black and the really vibrant purples and blues. Moving on to the next card, so we have the Bursting Dahlia stencil here. This is a huge bloom. It's so pretty, and really just one of these flowers could carry a card, but I decided to layer it with a few different colors. So I started in the center with Sunray, and then I'm coming in with Coral Berry. I didn't feel like that was dark enough, so I brought in some chamomile, and then I'm doing another layer of the Coral Berry to darken up that first bloom. Then I'm going to move my stencil, and I'm just going to cover up any areas where I think I could accidentally get some stray ink. Now I'm going to use a really small detail brush here, and I'm inking it up with some Galactic Stream ink. Sorry guys, I feel like I'm totally losing my voice. So I'm just gonna shift my stencil over. Make sure that you clean off any excess ink because you don't want to pick that up and transfer it to your next flower. So for the 2 flowers in the background, I want to use some lighter colors. So I'm using my largest blending brush so that it's nice and soft. I'm coming in with Pink Pearl and just doing a light layer of that, and then I'm going to clean off my stencil, move it over, and here I'm going to do Sunray. Now I didn't clean my brush very well, so this color is a little bit muddy. Sunray is usually more of a light warm yellow, and mine turned a little beige because I hadn't really cleaned my brush. But that's okay. I didn't really like that blue. I thought it was too bold, and so I'm just going to dull it down with some gray ink. And what do I use? I use charcoal gray. It's the darkest gray and the gentleman's gray color family. And then I'm going to move this over, and for the other two flowers, I'm going to use the lightest gray in that set, which is Silver Lake. Once again, I'm going to use bold greetings for my sentiment, but this time I used white since I don't have any black on this card at all. And I just love how the white stands out so nicely and how all the petals overlap. Here I have the hand-drawn tile stencil adhered to my cardstock, and then I have a circle masking stencil on top of that for a double stencil technique. I ended up not going in the direction I thought, so you can just add just areas of different colors on here. You don't need the circle at all. So I'm using Pink Pearl, Sunray, Coral Berry, and some Mountain Mist. And then I decide to go over the entire stencil with Silver Lake. So that's why I'm saying you could just use spots of color. I also dry embossed with the stencil. So with an embossing pad, I ran the stencil and the cardstock through my die cutting machine. And you can see that dry embossing there. So I have the Mega H die, and I've cut that out of pale gray cardstock, added a sub-sentiment, and to get that H to stand out a little bit better on the busy background, I'm just going to add a small square of vellum that's slightly smaller than that square pattern that you have in the middle of the card here that was produced by the stencil. So that'll just help the H stand out just a little bit more. It's very subtle, but it adds that little extra something. It makes it just a little bit more noticeable. So I'll get that adhered down. All that was left was to add a couple of sequins or confetti, and this card was done. Super easy. I love the pattern of it, and I like the mix of colors. So the last card I made was my absolute favorite. It didn't turn out anything like I was anticipating. So I have the main body of the stencil, and I'm inking it up with Sunray ink. Then I'll peel up my purple tape and I will shift the stencil so that the detail part is there. So this is a layering stencil. Before I remove it, I'll just clean the stencil and wipe it down a little bit. So here's the detail part of the stencil, and I just put the purple tape over the areas where I could get stray ink. I end up fussy cutting this butterfly out anyway. So here I have Coral Berry, and I'm just making it the deepest color at the edges of the wings, the ends of the wings, and lighter in the center of the body, center of the wings there. I'm so losing my voice, you guys. My chest hurts so bad, so I'm sorry about that. Here I'm coming in with chamomile in the center just to darken up that yellow. And now I'm going to do the body, and I do the body in some Coral Berry. And I wanted to darken that up a little bit so it just didn't blend in with the rest of the body. So I have a small detail brush with Silver Lake, and I'm just adding some shadows to the body. And I really like the look of that. And so then I decided to add some of that shadow to the rest of the wings. So I added it definitely to the ends of the wings, the edges, and then on either side of the body, and a few more of the individual spots on the wings. Once I removed the stencil, I liked it, but there just wasn't enough contrast for me. So then I decided to pull out my Altenew artist markers and add some color. So here you can see the difference between what I'm working on right now is just the stencil, and then obviously on the left-hand side, that's with marker that I've already done. So the artist markers that I'm using are the rose petal set, and I'm starting with the darkest color first, and then I'm just going in succession from darkest to lightest and just blending that out. So I want to leave the area in the center of the wings the lightest, and especially once I get to the yellow part. So right now I'm doing the darkest parts, the detail area, I'm going to do with rose petal. And then for the parts that are that light yellow, I'm going to come in with some yellow markers. But there are parts of that that I don't add any color to at all so that it stays a super bright yellow. So I'm just blending out the markers, and not only do I do the edges of the wings, but I'll also put some dark marker on either side of the body and then blend those, get lighter and lighter as we go to the center. So we'll switch over to the yellow markers. For the yellows, I'll use Warm Sunshine, Buttercream, and then I'm going to come in with some small detail areas with Mocha just to add a little bit of definition to a few areas of the wings, and you'll see that in just a minute. So Warm Sunshine is going to be the shadow areas, and then Buttercream is going to blend that out. But there's going to be this area right there where those two individual dots are that I don't add any color to at all. That's going to stay that super bright yellow so that the wings look like they're curved. Here I have the Mocha marker, and I'm using the bullet nib here so that I can just add, am I? No, I'm still using the brush nib. So I'm just adding those bits of brown to these areas and kind of just spattering it around. I'm not doing a total outline. They're broken lines and kind of just little dots here and there just to add a little something extra. I'm going to fussy cut out the butterfly. I don't even bother with the antennas, you guys. I just end up using some gold thread for the antennas. And then I've run a piece of black cardstock through the die cutting machine with the dotted Starburst Debossing cover die. That's also new from Altenew. And I'm just taking a hello die cut from the Bold Greetings. I've temporarily adhered it to this piece of white cardstock just so I can hold on to it. And I'm using the same rose petal markers to add a gradient effect to this die cut so that it matches the butterfly. So darkest to lightest with those 4 markers, and then at the very top I'm going to come in with Warm Sunshine to help blend out that pink so that it doesn't have a harsh line at the top. If you look at the butterfly up top, you can see it has a white outline around it. I went ahead and filled that in with a black marker so that it would be more cohesive with the rest of the card. I absolutely love how the sentiment die cut turned out with the gradient effect, and I really do like the brown accents that I added to the butterfly as well. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends, and hit the alert button or the bell button so that you don't miss any new inspiration. Leave a comment over on my blog so that you're in for a chance to win a gift certificate to shop Altenew. Thanks again, and I'll see you real soon with more inspiration.